And so we are going to get started. But before we start, does anyone have any questions? And so welcome to those that have just joined us. And I'm gonna share screen. And then I'm gonna pass it to my colleague, Kaz, and he's gonna kick us off.
Hello, hello. Good evening, everyone. So glad everybody could join, be a part of this. Uh, just want to say, and we are coming into our closing session today, which is going to be with retirement, and it's about retirement, 401k versus the IUL. And excuse me, my internet is a little choppy on me. So, all right, can everybody hear me? Thumbs up. Am I good? Okay, cool. All right. Yeah, so just welcome everybody back. You know, this is our final session of the final series. And I just real quick, does anybody remember this was an old commercial, but it was a Wendy's commercial, and there was this old would drive around and she would ask, "Where's the beef? Where's the beef?" Right? Well, that's what we're bringing to everybody this evening, right? This is the beef of the financial series that we've been able to provide, and so we're gonna get all of that with the retirement 401k first IUL training. So just a couple of housekeeping notes. I know everybody is a professional and master at Zoom by now. Next slide, please. But just in case, we just want to make sure uh, everybody keeps themselves muted when not speaking, so we can avoid the distractions and background noises. And we encourage you all to keep your cameras on so we can see your lovely faces and keep the engagement. And also encourage everybody to use the chat feature, right? We want to see everybody active. So use the chat feature to interact. And number 4 is to write your comments or thoughts and ideas. You can also impact that into the chat, right? Next slide, please. And so now we have the reactions button, right? Which allows you to do several different things, give applause, thumbs up, right? So real quick, I want everybody give me a thumbs up with your reaction button. Everybody give me a thumbs up. All right. There we go. Love it. Thank you. Thank you. Great. See, I knew everybody was good at this. All right. So now we got that jam packed. Everybody knows how to use the React. Want to see it happening throughout this training, right? And so next slide, please. We're gonna go into our community agreements. And so we just want to make sure that everybody here is understanding and we have a safe space. Actually, you know what? Can I get somebody to volunteer to read the community agreements for me? Do we have any volunteers?
I can read.
All
Community
right. Thank you,
agreements.
Merced.
We commit to attend with an open mind. We commit to being present and bring our fully self. We commit to respect the experience and opinion of others. We commit to engage on camera and participate in learning via chat or virtual activities.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, Merced. Appreciate that. And so, next slide, please. All right, so here's our little warm up. How we're gonna get started, okay? So, what comes to mind when you think about retirement? So, everybody just take a quick couple seconds, and then share what comes up on your mind. Feel free to unmute, or you can write in the chat. Yes, vacation, freedom.
For me, it's retirement is saving for when I get retired and have enough money, hopefully, to survive and continue living, but it's hard.
Yes, ma'am. What else do we got? Impossible. Yes, cruise. Yep. And that's right. Well, that's Liam, right? Possibly most folks do. And that's the harsh reality of it sometimes, is that it may not be possible. Those that it's not possible for didn't plan for it. And that's why it's not possible. So if you can plan for it, that's the biggest key. And that will allow you to stay out of those situations of obligation and having to work when you don't want to, if at all possible. So thank everybody for sharing. I love to hear people dream and share what's on their minds, and see if we can, make these things reachable and turn them into reality. All right. And so then, next slide, please. So just real quick, just going over the learning objectives for today. We're going to understand the difference between some of the other vehicles of retirement, but we'll mostly focus on 401k or the 403b, understanding the diverse structure. That's also with the 401k and the 403b. And then really dive into how to understand universal life, and how people can use this as an insurance vehicle for your educators and your families. And so without further ado, I will be passing it to the great Dr. Spears. Take us away.
Oh, you're very, very funny. So we we didn't do formal introductions this time, because we did feel like you would know us by now that it's the third session. But for any of you all that are new joining us this evening, so my name is Dominica Spears, or Dr. Spears. I've been in ECE for about 18 years. So I'm coming to you as an educator in the field myself. So I've held many different positions, but I started off as an assistant teacher, and then worked my way up to be a director, and running programs. Then I was a coach and supported programs in that capacity. I went back to directing. I also have my own family childcare. I have my own family resource center. And currently, I'm the director of education and community engagement with support for families. In addition, I'm a financial advisor. And so I am certified through the state of California under the Department of Insurance. So I have taken some rigorous courses and taken a certification test to get my license through the state to actually come to you tonight and bring you information around financial freedom and security. And we wanted to do this to really open the doors and provide some information and knowledge around savings and retirement, because we all know that this information is not easily accessible, especially in communities of color. And that is what drives my mission to really help and support families. Our motto is no family left behind. So all families can be helped and supported. And so we help families starting off by saving $25 all the way to $25 million. We don't turn families away. And that's important to make sure everyone truly has access to a quality financial literacy and education. So I know that this could be overwhelming, but I want to show the different types of retirement accounts out there. So there are over 20 different retirement accounts, and it's really important that you meet with a financial professional like myself, like Kaz, like Bree, and we can help determine what is the best vehicle for you to begin saving. So there's the deferred compensation, there's a 401k, 403b, there's the simple IRA, there's the Roth IRA, and then there's also a special Roth IRA program that's called CalSavers. And we'll talk about that a little bit more. There's also a pension. So depending on the type of job you had, so maybe you had a job previous to your employment in ECE, you may have gotten a pension, which they don't offer those a lot anymore. But a pension is great because it allows you to have a stream of income for the rest of your life. And the organization or business is responsible for providing you that set agreed upon value. So as you can imagine, you can't really find jobs with pensions anymore that are structured in that way. So tonight we are going to talk heavily about 401k and 403bs because that's typically what individuals have in this field, but it doesn't mean that all of these other ones we just dismiss. It's just we just don't have enough time to talk about all of them tonight. But for the most part, when working with a nonprofit, which most of the program centers are, they're nonprofit, or for-profit, which would be like Bright Horizons or KinderCare, they either use a 401k or a 403b. Now, I did want to talk about CalSavers because with the new laws that are passed, CalSavers is a new voluntary retirement program here in California. And so employers are required to participate in CalSavers. So if your job is not offering a 401k or a 403b, they're required to offer the CalSavers program. And so starting this year, January 2023, even employers that have an average of 4 or less employees, they will be required to participate in CalSavers in 2025. If they do not provide a retirement plan of their own. So that also means if you're a family child care provider and you have 2 assistants working with you, you are required in 2025 to join the CalSavers program. And so you would register as an employer. So this is coming down in 2025. But right now, anyone who has 5 or more employees is required to offer the CalSavers or another retirement plan. So if you're working at a center and there's more than 5 employees, they should definitely have a retirement plan available to you. So you just have to, and this one is completely voluntary, so you just have to ask so that you can get the enrollment papers so you can set that up. And typically it's done when you're doing your HR paperwork. When you first are onboarded, they'll ask about what retirement account you're interested in. Now with the CalSavers account, there is a limit because it is a Roth IRA. And with Roth IRAs, there are, so based on the federal government, they put stipulations on how much money you can put into your account. So in 2023, this year, the limit is 6,500 if you're under 50, and it's 7,500 if you are over the age of 50. And that's because you're getting close to that retirement age, and they're allowing you that extra 1,000 so you can start saving for retirement. So typically people retire at the age of 65, but really there's no set age for retirement. Retirement is literally a pot of money that you have saved that you plan to live on for the rest of your life. So when you retire, that means that you are not going to work. You have enough money saved where you don't have to return to work. So that number looks different for everyone. But at the age of 55, sometimes people begin to start thinking about retirement. When you are 59 and a half, you can start accessing benefits from Social Security. Now, the longer you wait to access benefits from Social Security, the more money they will give you. Now, someone like me who's not going to retire for possibly another 40 years because of my age, there might not be Social Security when I'm old enough to retire. So we want to think about other vehicles to save money and not rely on Social Security because it may not be there. So if you are a young person, if you are under the age of 40, you should really plan on saving and opening your own retirement account and not relying on Social Security because those funds may not be there. So if you have other IRA accounts, the Cal Savers is in addition to those accounts. So you cannot add 6,500 to your Cal Savers and you cannot add 6,500 to your other IRA. Across both accounts, you are capped at 6,500. So that's important to remember. So these are federal limits that are put on these accounts by the government. So you cannot exceed those amounts. So it's important that if you're supposed to meet with a financial advisor, so you can think about what is your retirement number. So you really have to calculate how much money do I need in retirement to live? And then you can create a plan to save for that pot of money. What I find is when I work with families, 6,500 a year is not enough to help them save to the number that they want. So they do have to open another account in addition to their IRA. And that's okay and that's allowed. But just keeping in mind for IRA accounts, there is a limit that is imposed by the federal government and no one can change that. And in the slides, there's a link to the Cal Savers website where you're able to go and access to read more about it. It is a voluntary program, so you're able to sign up there. So if employers provide something like a 401k, they're required to provide Cal Savers. So no, if the company provides a 401k, that's an employee sponsored plan, they're not required to offer the Cal Savers. But you can go to the Cal Savers website and enroll. It's an involuntary program for you to enroll. And so you could definitely have both the 401k from your work and the Cal Savers Roth IRA, completely up to you. All right, so I'll pass it to Kaz to remind us of the 3 rules of money that we talked about in session 1.
I'm gonna unmute myself like a rookie over here. All right. So real quick, who remembers the 3 rules of money? Put a one in the chat if you remember the 3 rules of money. Right. Thanks, Bree. I'm glad you remember. Oh,
Yeah, we might need a reminder. I don't know if Kaz is frozen. I think maybe he is. So I'm gonna jump in here. So
okay. All right. So
oh,
rule of 72. Remember, this is how long it will take your money to double. You take the return that you're getting on your money, variable and indexed. Fixed is like your bank account, CD accounts. And so you don't gain a lot, you don't lose a lot. Variable, that's like your 401ks, your 403bs. That money's in the market. So when the market goes up, your money goes up. But when the market goes down, your money goes down with it, right? And then you have indexed, which is a combination of the two of fixed and variable. So when the market goes up, your money goes up. But when the market goes down, that index strategy locks in your gains and allows you to not experience any losses. And so the third rule and final rule is how money gets taxed, right? So you have tax now, which is like your saving account, your bank accounts. And so what happens is that money gets taxed every year on the growth of that money every year for the rest of your life. Then you have tax later or tax deferred. And so you don't get taxed now, they tax you later. Typically, later in time, taxes generally go up. They've never go, they rarely go down, right? So at a later date, you'll get taxed at a higher rate when you need the money the most. Doesn't sound too good. And then the final is tax advantage, or we like to call it is tax never. So it allows you to grow your gains and you get to access them 100% tax free. Okay. Excuse me. And so with that, next slide, please. Oh, that's yours. Sorry.
all right. So we wanted to basically talk a little bit more about the difference between a 401k and a 403b. So I know we've been sharing these numbers out. And so there is a difference between the two. And so depending on where you work, they'll either give you a 401k or 403b. So a 401k is a retirement plan that's set up by your employer, and this is for profit employers. So like I said, that is like KinderCare or Bright Horizon or any other industry where they're making a profit. So when they say that they're making a profit, so they are offering their employees a 401k. Now, a 403b is a retirement account for a tax exempt employer. And so this is like a nonprofit, a scientific or religious organization, any type of research organization, or university employees. So they're going to get a 403b. Now there are different numbers because of the employers and how the employers are structured, but they work in very similar ways. So tonight we're going to show you how your 401k or your 403b works. So when we talk about 401k or 403b, they're interchangeable in the example that we give you tonight. just so that you can see, because both plans are tax deferred plans. So that means the tax later. So when we go through the 3 rules of money, these are tax later accounts. So this means that you're going to be taxed in the future when you need the money the most. And so when you're taxed in the future, taxes are going to go up, because that's what it does. Taxes go up in the future. I mean, just thinking about when you were a child, how much a gallon of milk was, how much a gallon of gas was, how much a postage stamp was. So with inflation and taxes, everything is more expensive in the future. And so that also means when you are ready to access your money in the future, you are going to have to pay higher taxes on that money. And so what we see is that individuals did not plan for that tax increase. And so they think that they're going to retire and they have saved money, but not realizing 25, 35 years in the future, things are a lot more expensive. And so this is why they have to come out of retirement early, because they ran out of money. Now, there's a lot of reasons why people love their 401ks, and they are and good retirement vehicles for the most part. So you can save on your taxes now. The way that the 401ks are structured, when you pay money, it comes out of your gross dollars instead of your net dollars. So before you pay taxes on your paycheck, it comes out there. So that means that your taxable income is lower. So it could potentially put you in a lower tax bracket. Sometimes companies give matches. So if you put in 5%, your company will put in 5%. Lo and behold, now your account has 10%. So a lot of people love the additional money that is added to their account because their employer is matching them. And then in general, like after you've saved, you have this big pot of money and you're ready for retirement, your taxes are going to be lower depending on how much you're contributing to your account, because you're on a lower tax bracket. And so that does help you, especially going into retirement. So some people love their 401ks for those reasons. So I want to take you through a real life example. And so I'm going to have Kaz drop this calculator in the chat. So you can calculate this on your own if you want to. Totally up to you. But I'm going to walk through what happens when you're putting your money in a 401k or a 403b. And so let's just say we have this individual person, they're saving, they're planning for their retirement, and they're putting in 1950, so 19,500. They're max funding their 401k. So they're putting in that annual contribution. The employer is going to match them 6% of their earned income. So that means every year they're getting a match of $12,000. Now, this person is planning to retire at the age of 70. So that means that 35 there, they have 35 years to save to get to this pot of money. And then best case scenario is that they get a 6% rate of return. Now, remember, when thinking about the rules of money, a 401k, 403b, the money is in the market and we cannot predict the market. So this is a guess that the best case scenario, they'll get 6% on their money, but we have no idea to predict the market. So this 6% is not guaranteed. This is just a guess. So if the market tanks and takes years to recover, this is not going to be an actual number. So with this calculation, this person has about $3.7 million that they've saved up if they move through the plan in this way. And that means every year they're going to max fund their account. The employer is going to add $12,000, and they're going to do this for the next 35 years. And if they do it, they will have a little over 3.7 million. Now, some might say, well, wow, that's a lot of money. And yes, I will be ready to retire. 3.7 million, absolutely. All right, so then again, we put in the money. So now this is where it comes to calculate the taxes. So we put in that balance, 3.7 million. We think about the return rate. So again, you know, these are our best guesses. We don't know what our return rate will be, but in calculating for the market, we put 2% there. And so years to pay out. So this means after retirement, they're going to live on this pot of money. So they've calculated 30 years, knowing and thinking that this person is going to pass away at 100. So we don't know, no one can foresee that. But it's 30 years that they will have to pay out. Now, granted, if the person dies before 100, there'll be extra money left over that hopefully goes to their beneficiaries if they set up that correctly. And if they live after 100, that means they didn't plan for that, and so they may not have any money after 100. So it's important to balance this. Now, because of their income and their tax rate, they're at a 35%. So this is something that you would get from the tax, from the table. So California sets guidelines based on if you file single or if you file married, and there's a tax table. And so this is where that 35% came from. Now, when you press this calculate button, it gives you the results. So every year, this particular person is going to get $162,000, almost 163. Now they have to minus the taxes because remember the 401k is a tax later. So every year they're going to pay taxes on the money that they get from their 401k, which is about $57,000. So that means that every year they're going to need to live off of about $105,000, almost $106,000. Now, if this person was expecting to get $162,000, they have a shortfall immediately. So they're going to need to adjust their life expenses to fit within that means of 105,000 because taxes are inevitable. And with the 401k, they've selected for their taxes to be paid in the future. So they have to pay the taxes later. And when you pay taxes on a larger amount, there's a larger amount here, there's more taxes. So they're paying taxes on the whole amount of $162,000. That's why they're paying $57,000 every year. So this was the table that I was telling you about and how that's calculated. So, and let's give him a name. So Joe. So if he's making $200,000 per year, in California, his tax rate is 35%. So we kind of do that math. So if you do 200,000 times that 0.35, every year he's paying 70,000 in taxes. Remember, we have to pay taxes. It's inevitable. And if he's single, there's a higher rate. And if you're married filing jointly, you get a little bit more here. So there are incentives to file jointly when you are married. So based on his plan, he's going to utilize the 401k. This is how he's determined that he's going to max fund it at $19,500. So he's came up with that amount based on his numbers. And so you would meet with a financial professional so we can figure out what your numbers are. So this is an example related to Joe and his numbers. And so you should meet with a financial professional so we can figure out your own personal numbers and how this example would look real time for you and your own personal, all of your personal things that come into play. Now, so with Joe and his taxes here, so his taxable income goes from 200,000 to 180,500. Now remember what I said, that with the 401k, a lot of people like it because it reduces their taxable income. And so that means that the government is not going to tax them on the whole 200,000. They're only going to tax them on the 180. So there's a win there. So his taxes was beforehand 70,000, but with his 401k, he's only getting taxed 63,175. So he saves. So this is why people like their 401k, because he saves almost 69,000 a year in taxes by going the route of the 401k. And some people are like, wow, that's a lot of money to save, which is why people are in love with their 401k. So if he was to save every year for 35 years, by opening a 401k, he saves $238,875 over time. 35 years, he's saved that in taxes. And so that means when he files his taxes, he doesn't have to pay the government that money because he's saving it. And so the government acknowledges that he's saving the money. So the government says, okay, we're not going to tax you on the whole amount. We're only going to tax you what you take home in your paycheck. So that is where the savings happens. Now, remember that he's opened an account, which is a 401k or 403b. It's tax deferred money. So yes, up front, for the 35 years he was saving, he saved that 238,000. So in working, he saved that. Now, what he did not realize is that he's going to have to take the taxes and pay for the taxes when he starts receiving that money for retirement. Because Joe did not pay the taxes on that 3.7 million. He saved that money before taxes. And so he's going to have to pay taxes on it when he starts receiving it as income. So while he saved 238,000, he's paying 1.7 million during his retirement. Now, if he thought he was going to have that 3.7 and then now is having to pay the taxes for it, 1.7, automatically his account drops to $2 million. So if he's planned for that 3.7 million, he needs to make some radical adjustments because he is now paying 1.7 million over time in taxes. So this is why, as financial advisors, we advise our clients to pay taxes in the beginning because it's easier to pay your taxes upfront immediately, opposed to waiting, because you end up paying more in taxes when you wait. And if you have not adequately planned for those taxes, then your retirement, you're not going to have enough money to live, which either means you're going to go back to work because you've ran out of money, or you're going to need to make some life altering decisions so that you can save funds. So wouldn't it be better just to plan effectively from the beginning so you don't have to worry about this later? Yeah, so the Roth is it's basically an account that you've paid taxes already. So once you receive the money, it is tax free. It just will not allow you to save as much. And so it depends on what Roth you open. So there are different Roth accounts. So it depends on how you open it and where you and how you structure it. But typically, the Roth accounts, they are what we call the tax advantage or tax never, which is great because you've paid taxes before. And so the money gets to grow in an account tax free, and then you receive that money. The downside to the Roth is that it's a small pot of money to save per year. So remember, if you're under the age of 50, you can only save $6,500 a year. So when thinking about your retirement, a lot of people are not able to live off of the $6,500 per year that they're saving. So they typically have to add something else to the Roth. It's a great account, but they have to add something else. And if you have multiple Roths in the state of California, it's $6,500 across your different accounts. So it's not $6,500 here or $6,500 there. It's $6,500 across all accounts. And that is a guideline that is imposed by the federal government, and nobody can change that. So it's better to get another account. And if you are married, the Roth, they allow you to add a little bit more. So they always do when you're married, or if you are older, because when you're married, you're now two people that you're saving for. As long as you are opening the account together and filing together under the married status. But again, the Roth IRA has the limits. And so that is the downside, is that you can't really save as much as you want to, given the retirement, especially if you have a lot of expenses. And so sometimes it does work where like typically if you have a Roth, you can live off of it if maybe you're moving in with family and family is taking care of you. So you don't have to worry about rent. You don't have to worry about a car. You probably only have to provide for your essentials. Maybe the Roth will be enough. But again, that's why you have to properly plan, because if you do have to continue to pay a mortgage, if you are paying for a car, or if you're planning to travel in your retirement, you have to have money for all of that. And so it's important that you plan effectively. But I said the Roths are good accounts. It's just the limits that are imposed by the federal government. And if you are interested in seeing how the numbers work out for you, I would really advise that you connect with one of the financial professionals on this call so we can create an individualized plan that outlines what your retirement number is and a plan for you to reach that number. All right, so this is letting you know that in 1978, this 401k plan, it was never really designed to be the primary system for retirement. But the way that it played out is that we moved from pensions to 401k because the 401k, it puts the ownership back on the employee and not on the employer. So with pensions, it is up to the employer to make sure that the employee is covered during retirement. And so when we have these crashes in the market, the employer was taking the hit with the pensions, which is why a lot of employers moved away from the pension so that they would not be liable. And so the 401k came into play, and it puts all of that ownership on the employee. So if the market crashes, the employer is not affected. It's the employee that loses the money in the market. And it's up to the employee to manage their account. And so because of that, the 401k took off, but it really was not meant to be the way that it is now. It literally came to be as an accident. And so here are just some more, news articles from various news stations, and we can share these articles with you, although they are only in English. But it really just talks about that these 401k saver accounts, there are too many choices, which were making employees very, very confused. And so they were making a lot of mistakes when buying and selling off stocks in their 401ks. Because remember, 401ks are in the market. And so you are buying stocks to try to, that's how your money is being invested. So if you're not sure what stocks to choose, or if you're not sure how to blend those accounts, people were finding themselves that they were blindly trying to just make it work, and they were choosing the wrong accounts. And so some employers have screened for that. And so they do work with other companies that kind of help to choose that. But again, employees themselves, many still don't know how their 401ks are working. And so me personally, if I'm going to put my life savings in an account, I would want to know how that account is working. And if I don't know how that account is working, then I want somebody to be able to teach me how that works. And with these big companies, they just don't have time to help middle America, people like us. And so that is why a lot of people go without having the proper financial education or literacy, because these big companies just don't want to take the time to teach working Americans how these accounts work. And so often I meet with individuals that will say, well, I don't know how my 401k works. I have no idea. I just know I put money in and they send me a statement at the end of the quarter. Now, when thinking, if you could, if I could show you how to build your retirement savings tax-free, would you be interested in learning how that's done? Now, when I mean tax-free, I mean that if you've saved $3.7 million, that in retirement, you actually have $3.7 million to your name. Like, you would get a check and you would not need to pay taxes on it, because you've already paid taxes in the future already, like you've paid before. So if I can show you legally how to create a tax-free retirement, would you be open to that? Anyone in the chat, would you be open to that? Or you can unmute and share. So I see, yes, please. And absolutely. So we're going to drop in the chat an interest form that you can complete. It's in 3 languages, English, Spanish, and Chinese, where you're able to sign up with us so we can meet with you and show you how And so the goal of these free sessions is to give you a roadmap of what your retirement number is and how to properly save towards that number. So that way, when you are ready to retire, you know how much money you will have and how long it will take you to reach that number. So you can be properly informed. So I'm going to pass it to Kaz so he can explain a little bit about how the S&P 500 works and how, when your money is in the market, what that actually means.
All right, thank you, Dominica. So the S&P 500 is S&P is it's called the Standard and Poor's 500. So they take the top 500 companies in the U.S. and the market is based off of the production of those companies. So that's why it's called the S&P 500. And so here in this picture, you can see the three ways from the how money grows. They all been color coordinated so that you can see how what it looks like on top of each other. So the first you have is your blue line. That's your fixed rate. So you see it has a steady incline. You don't experience any losses, but not a lot of gains either, right? Just kind of a long hill. And then you see your red line. That's the market. That's the stock market. And as you can see, a lot of ebbs and flows, ups and downs, ups and downs. And then our green line is our index strategy. And as you can see, at the end of the journey, it is sitting at the top of the mountain all by itself. So now let me ask you, and you can drop your answer in the chat for me. Which line do you want your money to grow like? Blue, red, or the green? Yes, Lashanti. Green, green, green. Definitely. And so as you can see, right, like the red started off strong, but then what happened to that first drop in the market put it set it back so far. And I don't know if you guys remember from our first training when we showed you the index video and how these compared, that when that drop in the market happened, the index didn't drop. And then from that point forward, the the variable, the stock market, that variable account will never catch that index strategy account, right? And so it's like do you remember the tortoise and the hare, right? The tortoise and the hare story. The hare took off, had that quick start, and then took a nap, and the tortoise came slowly but steady and won the race, right? And so that is how our green line and our red line, with our green line representing the tortoise and the hare represent the red. And so basically, don't fall asleep with your money in these accounts, or in the end, you'll lose out. Okay. Next slide, please. So here, this is a side by side comparison of the S&P 500 and the IUL. And so just to make a point and kind of pay attention to detail, we've highlighted the red areas because this is what we want to focus on, right? And the red areas are showing all of the negative growth over this time period. And so you see in year 2000, there was minus 12%, 2001, minus 8%, 2002, minus 24%. And so when you started the year, when 1999 ended, you had $374,000. And then 2000, it dropped down to 328,000. And then 2001, because of the drop again, it dropped down to 299. 2002 hit you again. Now it's down to 225. So you went from 374 to 225 in a three-year time period. And when you look right at the other side on your IUL, those 3 years of negative growth, you don't experience the growth with the IUL. That's what protects you. So you don't gain any money, right? Your account doesn't grow because the market was in a down spiral. But the most important thing is you didn't lose any money. So when you ended the year with that 371,000, you still had 371,000 in 2002 compared to having that money in the market where it was 225, right? So that's a little less than $150,000 difference right there. And then you drop down to 2008, right? Because now you see, start to experience, okay, things are going up. And then 2008 hits, boom, minus 43% on your account. That's almost 50%. That's a big chunk of money. So now in 2007, when you recovered and your money grew from 225 and got back up to 370, which is fabulous, but then that year you lose 43%, almost 44% of that. Now that 370 has gone and turned into $207,000. That's crazy. And then you see 2008, and if you had it in the IUL, how you experienced it, no loss, but no gain, but you're sitting at $609,000 right now, right? That's $400,000 difference that we're sitting at this moment. And then market starts to pick up, everything's going good, we're chugging along, everybody's having a good old time. And then 2015 comes. Now, this was more like a little speed bump, right? Just a little, like you stubbed your toe, right? Didn't even lose a whole percent, but nonetheless, you lose a few dollars, right? And so 2018 goes up a little bit again, and then now you've experienced a 7% drop. And so now in 2017, your account was at 588, and that 7% dropped it to 547. To where in 2017, with the IUL, we're sitting at 1.6 million. And with that stub toe, you're still sitting there with 1.6 million. And you just get a little ice, right? Put a little ice pack on it. You're good. Now 2019 comes, and this is a good growth, right? 8%. in the market. So now you jump up to $705,000. Great return, right? Great climb. And so remember, and the IUL is shown at a cap of percent. So you get to experience 25% of that, 28%. But now our 1.6 million turns into almost 2.1 million. And so now we're sitting from 2020 and in 2020, right in the heart of the pandemic, another 34%. So as you were feeling good, we got back to that 70, we got it back up to 705,000. We're doing good. And then, and just like that 705 is back to 465,000. Whereas you have it here in the IUL, experience the wins, no losses. You still have your $2.1 million, right? And so this is excuse me. This is the comparison of the S&P 500 index and the IUL. And so just be aware of, and oh, sorry, excuse. Uh-oh. I'm losing everybody. Yeah, so so the original starting point 250, right? Dropped to 207, and with the and then you only, sorry, I can't, my screen got small.
I could jump in, Cass, just to
Yeah,
just to illustrate this. So for the S&P, so
I'm
both,
having,
yeah, no worries, it's all good. These computers, I swear.
yeah, my thing, yes, thank you.
Yeah. But so just to illustrate this, so in both accounts, we started off with 250,000 in both accounts. At the end of all of the peaks and valleys with your 401k or an account that's in the market, you end up with $116,000. So you've lost. So you did not even get back to your initial investment. Now, this is something that you cannot plan for in the 401k because nobody can predict the market. It's illegal to predict the market. So whenever you have your money in a 401k or a 403b or any type of an account that's in the market, you're taking a risk. You're gambling with your life savings with no way to figure out if you are going to win or not. Now with the IUL, it puts the protections on your money. So you're protected from all of the losses while still participating in the gains of the market. So over time, so from 1997 to 2020, your initial investment of 250,000 has now turned into 2 million, almost close to $2.1 million. And so that's what we want to share with you, is that if you choose the correct accounts and the correct saving vehicle for your money will grow tax-free, have the protections, and you will benefit in that uphill of the market while still looking at that compounding interest. Because that's the important piece, is that we want the money to be compounding while it's saving. That's how you receive those higher numbers, is that compounding interest. So remember, if it's an account, when we're looking at the rules of money, an account that has that 6 to 12% rate of return, that's when you see that the higher growth with that rule of 72. Most of these here, we see that those numbers are over 6 to 12%. So that compounding interest, indexing to protect the money, and an IUL utilizes that tax advantage strategy. So you've paid the taxes already before you put the money in this account. So that also means that you get to keep that $2 million to yourself and not pay taxes on it. And that's the beauty of this account, that you've saved the money, and the money that you expect to be there is going to be there for you. So as we see with the IUL, there are some downfalls. Now, if you notice in the S&P, anytime that there was growth over 25%, the IUL is capped at 25%. So that just means that the IUL is going, anytime the market is over 25%, you're only going to get that 25%. So depending on how you structure your IUL, there are other IULs that have no caps, no floors. So it just depends. And that's why it's important to meet with a financial professional to decide what account works best for you. But personally, I have an IUL that has a floor of 0 and a cap of 25. So with the market, we know that it hasn't been a steady gain of 25% or more over a span of a couple of years. Like, as you can see here, gains over 25 are, they're there, but it's like once every 7 to 8 years. So it's just that year you're not experiencing all of the win. But by certain, the gains of the IUL benefit the downfall, because as you see here, every time that there was a loss, so specifically 2008, which was the housing market crashed, and there was a negative 43%, the IUL had a floor of 0%, which meant it did not lose any money. And so that is the power of the IUL, where you do not participate in any of the losses in the market. And here you were able to see the difference just by not losing any funds. And once the market picks back up, you start accruing those gains again. So your 401k is not going to be under an IUL. So an IUL has to be structured with a financial professional. So your 401k is in the market. Now, for you to figure out what stocks your 401k is comprised of, you have to either go back to the company that holds your 401k, or you can talk to your employer and see how they're doing the shares. But your 401k is absolutely in the market. And each 401k or 403b is structured differently depending on the shares that were selected. Sometimes individuals, employees are able to choose their own shares. But a lot of times people do that blindly. They don't know. Very few know what shares they want to select. Some just say like, okay, I shop at Target. I'm going to invest in Target shares, or Tesla, or, Coca-Cola. But there are more methodical and strategic ways to choose the different shares for your retirement. So it's really important that you meet with a financial professional, and what you can do is bring your statement, and we can share with you what shares you have and the type of fund that your 401k or 403b has. So that way you can at least know that information. And we can also share with you how much loss you have seen over the course of your account. Because 401ks, you are going to experience losses because it's in the market. And so every time the market drops, your 401k account is going to drop because there's no protection. Now, the IUL, it mirrors the market, but your money is not in the market. So that's why you're protected with the IUL. And not everyone can get an IUL. And when you go to a bank, not all of the banks offer it. So I'm very fortunate, Kaz, Bree, we have over 100 different companies on our platform. Some of those companies offer IUL and some of them don't. But the beauty is that we are able to determine what company is going to offer the best for our client, and then we would help them to structure that. But just remember, your 401k is absolutely in the market, and the IUL is not. Very, very good. Very good question. All right, so we want to go back to Joe. So if Joe was to put the same money that he invested, so if he was to put that money in an IUL versus a 401k, he would contribute. So the contribution number doesn't change, but what he receives at the end changes. So remember, with that 401k, he had a balance of about 3.7 million. With an IUL, it jumps to 6.7 million. And that is all tax free. So remember, before we had to calculate that 59,000 and deduct that. And his taxes over the time of his retirement was 1.7 million. Well, with an IUL, because you pay your taxes before, none of that matters. So in his account, he's saved 6.7 million. He has 6.7 million for his retirement. So he's able to plan effectively because every cent that he had planned for to be there is there, and he's able to live his life. And so that's the beauty of the IUL, is that you have some guarantees on your money. And that's important, especially if you're planning for the future. And I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm not clairvoyant. I cannot see the future. I have no idea what's going to happen in the future. But what I like to know and be certain is that if I put money there, what I plan to be there is going to be there for me in the future. And I don't have to guess or worry, the money is there. And with the IUL, it gives you that peace of mind. And so I'll pass it to Kaz. So again, he can show you, and this is a real policy and how this policy is structured to really support that person saving for their retirement.
So here, this is like Dominica mentioned, this is kind of a snapshot of a policy on how it's structured. And so this is being run at a 6.1% rate of return. And so this client is 29 years old. And so this is going based off an annual premium of they're putting in $6,000 into their account for the year for 36 years until they retire, which their total will have put in will be $216,000 into this account. Now in return, they will receive $105,000, almost $106,000 for 50 years, which equals $5.2 million. So let me ask you guys this. If you wrote me a check right now for $216,000, and I turned around and wrote you a check for $5.2 million, isn't that a check you would write? Yes and yes, right? And then if I told you that somehow you didn't make it to the sweet ripe age of 120, that we were going to give your family $8.9 million tax free in death benefit. On top of that, make it even sweeter. So in all, your $216,000 really turns into $14 million. You have set up for yourself, but also your family gets the benefit of what you put in place, right? And so this one a quote of Warren Buffett. He says somebody is sitting in the shade today because somebody planted a tree a long time ago. I'm trying to plant these trees so my family can be in this type of shade, right? That's the kind of shade we want. Um, and that's lovely. So yeah, 216,000 into 14 million. That's lovely. And now I give it back to you, Dr. Spears.
So with this account, it has you to put in the strategies for a family bank. So banks like Bank of America, Wells Fargo, you essentially can be your own bank because you have the money in your account. It also has living benefits. So if you have a critical, chronic, or terminal illness and you need money to pay for your bills, this account can help you. This account also has a funeral concierge service with a will prep. So that way your family can enjoy being with loved ones and not the burden of planning a funeral. Somebody else will do that for you with your wishes in mind. So there's a way in which you can have everything that we've been talking about: savings, retirement, and to just have some money to be available for your family, tax-free, compounding interest, and utilizing those indexing strategies. This is a solution that has everything wrapped up in one. We're going to skip the video because we don't have time, but we wanted to show you the different accounts side by side so you can see where all of these accounts line up and how they compare to each other. Again, there's about 20 retirement accounts. We can't compare them all in this time. But when looking at a bank, if you're saving your money in a bank and just leaving it there versus the 401k, the Roth IRA, or if you have a fixed index annuity and an IUL. And a fixed index annuity is kind of like a pension, but you're still paying taxes on that money once you get the fund. So it doesn't have that tax benefit. But here you can see which account is really sticking out. And with those last few moments, we did want to share there is a way that you can take the money from your 401k and move it to an IUL. Because that's another question that people ask me is like, how do I put protections on my money? Well, this is a way that you can utilize an annuity. So you can roll your money over from your 401k to an annuity. You can take out monthly payments from your annuity, pay the taxes because the 401k, you do not pay taxes. So with the annuity, it forces you to pay those taxes, and you can put that money in an IUL so it can grow. And the benefit of that is that you're not, you put some protections on your money and you can actually know what you have when it's time for you to retire. All right, so we did want to thank everyone for tonight. These are our contacts. Kaz is going to drop that interest form in the chat. And we just really wanted to thank Sarah, ECESF, for allowing us to put on this session and this series and share some of this knowledge and information with you all, free of charge. So if you know of anyone who also needs this help, please send them our way. We do this for everyone free of charge so that they can at least understand how their money is working for them. Because remember, this is a money game. And in order for you to be successful at the money game is you have to understand the rules of money. And if you don't understand the rules of money, then you're playing somebody else's game, which you're bound to lose because you don't understand the rules. So we're here to help individuals know and understand how their money works so that they can utilize it in their advantage. So they can save properly, so they can structure their retirement properly. Because I know we all love working with children and families, but we don't want to do it for the rest of our life if we don't have to. So keeping that in mind. So thank you so much for everyone being here, being present. Remember, if you haven't already signed up for your free session, please sign up, and we'll be contacting those later on this week and next week. So if you've signed up already, have a look out, and we'll be connecting with you either tomorrow, this weekend, or next week for sure. And thank you so much for the interpreters and their support in helping us ensure that we're reaching a wide audience with this information. And thank you all to my team here, Kaz and Bree, for supporting me in this and remembering that we are all here to help you. Have a wonderful, wonderful evening. And then we will be following up with an email that has the evaluations, the slides, and any other information that would be helpful. So thank you all for being here. And